Behavior Learning Theories, Part 1. Tanya is a 4-year-old girl. She is complaining of difficulty in chewing and black discoloration in her teeth. Her parents are concerned that she is avoiding food and facing discomfort, which in turn is leading to the deterioration of her oral and general health. Her parents seek advice from multiple doctors, which leaves them confused due to conflicting advice. Meanwhile, Tanya herself has now developed a fear of dentists and is reluctant to even enter the clinic or sit on the dental chair. To overcome this, her dentist employs various behavior management techniques to get her to cooperate. These include positive reinforcement, distraction techniques like engaging narratives or favorite movies, voice control to guide her through the procedure, and non invasive actions to build trust gradually. These techniques use the principles of child psychology. Let's get into the details of this concept. Psychological development in an individual is a dynamic process that starts at birth and progresses through various stages, leading to different behaviors as they grow. Child psychology is the science or study of child's mind and how it functions. The theories of child psychology can be broadly classified into two groups. First, we have the three psychodynamic theories to understand how unconscious thoughts, emotions, and early experiences shape behavior and personality. The psychosexual theory of psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud, 1905. The cognitive theory by John Piaget, 1952. And the psychosocial theory or model of personality development by Erik Erikson, 1963. Next, we have the four theories of learning and development of behavior. Classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov, 1927. Operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, 1938. Hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow, 1954. And social learning theory by Albert Bandura, 1963. Behavioral learning theories provide insights into how behaviors are acquired and modified through environmental interactions. Why do we have to know these theories? They help us to understand the child better, to differentiate problems of psychological origin, to have effective communication with the child and gain their confidence, to provide an effective treatment to the child, making their dental visit a pleasant experience. Let us get into the details of behavior learning theories. The American Psychologists Association has defined behavior as an action by which an organism adjusts to the environment. According to Clifford T. Morgan, learning is any relatively permanent change in behavior that occurs as a result of practice or experiment. According to the behavioral perspective, the way we behave and learn can be explained by our interactions with the environment, and our actions are always responses to a natural or learned stimulus. However, some behaviorists insist that this purely occurs through association and reinforcement. In this video, we are going to discuss the first behavior learning theory, known as the classical conditioning theory. Ivan Pavlov was a Russian physiologist. He was interested in studying how digestion works in mammals. As part of his work, he began to study what triggers dogs to salivate. He observed that the sight of food would cause salivation in the dog. As a usual practice, a bell rang every time he presented food to the dogs. Over time, the dogs learned to associate the sound of the bell with the arrival of food. As days passed, something magical happened. Just the sound of the bell alone made the dogs start salivating, even if no food was in sight. The dogs had learned to link the bell with the upcoming meal through this simple yet powerful association. What Pavlov discovered when he observed the dogs drooling now had a much more far reaching effect than he ever thought. This paved the way for a new theory to study human behavior called the classical conditioning theory, which involves learning a new behavior via the process of association. In simple terms, two stimuli are linked together to produce a new learned response in a person or an animal. Let us now get into the details. There are three stages of classical conditioning, And at each stage, the stimuli and responses are given specific scientific terms. The first stage is the one before conditioning. We all know that a natural response like salivation in the dog at the sight of food need not be taught. Therefore, here, the food is the unconditioned stimulus, UCS, that produces an unconditioned response, UCR, which is salivation. The stimulus in the environment has produced a behavior or response that is unlearned. This stage also involves another stimulus that has no effect on the individual. And in this case, it is ringing the bell and is called the neutral stimulus. The dog does not show any natural response to the ringing of a bell. The second stage is called conditioning. During this stage, a stimulus that produces no natural response, or the neutral stimulus, which in this case is ringing a bell, is associated with the unconditioned stimulus, which is food. That is, the bell is rung each time the food is given. And now this is known as the conditioned stimulus, CS. In this step, we are conditioning the ring of a bell to the food being given. This association is strengthened as the neutral stimulus is repeated. And finally, in the third stage, after conditioning, the bond between the bell and salivation is established. Pavlov called it the psychic reflex or the conditioned reflex. Here, the conditioned stimulus, which is a ring of the bell, has been associated with the unconditioned stimulus, which is food, to create a new conditioned response, which is salivation or ringing the bell. This theory is also associated with 5 main principles. Let us learn them through a small experiment conducted on an infant called Albert. John Watson continued Ivan Pavlov's study to see if the experiment holds good in humans as well, and named it the Little Albert experiment. Little Albert was a 9-month-old infant who was tested on his reactions to various stimuli. To begin with, this little infant was calm and unemotional and showed no fear when exposed to any stimuli, such as a rat, rabbit, or even a scary mask. What startled him and caused him to be afraid was if a hammer was struck against a steel bar behind his head. This sudden loud noise would cause little Albert to burst into tears. This is the first principle of the theory called as acquisition. Here the fear has been acquired from the environment on the association of the rat with the hammer being struck. When little Albert was just over 11 months old, the white rat was presented, and seconds later the hammer was struck against the steel bar. This was done 7 times over the next 7 weeks, and each time little Albert burst into tears. By now the sight of the rat caused him to show every sign of fear. He cried even if the hammer was not hit against the steel bar and attempted to crawl away. He had also developed phobias of objects that shared characteristics with the rat, including the family dog, a fur coat, some cotton wool, and a Santa Claus mask. This process is known as generalization, which is the second principle. This proved that classical conditioning could be used to create a phobia, which is an irrational fear that is out of proportion to the danger. Over the next few weeks and months, little Albert was observed. 10 days of not having anything similar around him led to less marked fear. This dying out of a learned response is called extinction. Finally, after a few days, the sight of a rat would cause a sense of fear in Albert, but to a lesser extent, and this is known as a spontaneous recovery. Moving on, here are some definitions of commonly used terminology of this theory. Feel free to take a screenshot. Let's now get back to our 4-year-old Tanya. She was taken to a pediatrician when she was young for vaccinations. The doctor had a stereotypical attire with a white coat. She experienced pain and cried each time she was vaccinated. Therefore, the sight of any person or a dentist with a white coat will take her back to a memory of pain, which is a generalization of what she already is conditioned to. If the attire of the dentist is casual, will she begin to discriminate between the two and consider the dental appointment as a new experience and distinguish her pediatrician from the dentist? Not only unpleasant stimuli, But pleasant stimuli can also be conditioned. For example, at the end of the procedure, Tanya's dentist would pull down her mask, smile at her, and then give her a small toy. After a few sessions, Tanya knew that pulling down the mask meant that she would now get something from the dentist. I'm sure you have similar experiences of conditioning. Share it with us in the comment section. Let us understand the advantages and disadvantages of this theory. Classical conditioning is valuable for understanding learning processes and is based on empirical evidence. However, it oversimplifies behavior by focusing solely on environmental influences and fails to describe the role of genetic influence in human behavior.
Pop quiz.
Hope you had fun learning with us.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.